Ragnarok isn't the end of the world. It's a choice the gods made, knowing exactly how it would end, and they walked into it anyway. See, Marvel sold you this idea that Ragnarok is some surprise catastrophe. A bad guy shows up, gods scramble to stop him, big heroic battle. But that's not what the Norse believed at all. In their version, the gods have known about Ragnarok since the literal beginning of time. The Norns, these three cosmic entities who we fate itself, they carved Ragnarok into the roots of Yggdrasil before Odin even existed. It's not a prophecy. It's the foundation. The architecture of reality. And Odin? He's spent centuries trying to delay it. That's why he bound Fenrir with impossible chains. Why he had Loki chained beneath the earth with venom dripping onto his face. Why he's been gathering the Einherjar, the greatest warriors who ever lived, in Valhalla, training them every single day for a war he knows they'll lose. Every move he makes is a desperate attempt to buy time, not to win. Because here's the thing they always skip. This isn't good versus evil. It's order versus chaos. And in Norse cosmology, chaos was always going to win. The gods aren't heroes marching toward victory. They're doomed men walking knowingly into the fire because the alternative is worse. They could have stayed out of it. They could have let the world unravel quietly. But they chose to fight anyway, fully aware that fate isn't something you break in Norse myth. It's something you face. The seas rise first. Not as metaphor, the Midgard serpent thrashes in the depths and the ocean doesn't just flood the human world, it swallows it. Entire coastlines gone. Midgard, the realm humans call home, pulled under and drowned. But that's just the beginning. Yggdrasil itself starts to shake. The world tree, the literal structure holding all 9 realms in place, begins to collapse. Branches crack. Roots tear. The thing that keeps reality organized is coming apart. And here's where it gets cosmically horrifying. Muspelheim's fire and Niflheim's ice finally meet. These are the primordial forces that created everything in the first place. Fire and ice colliding in the void, sparking existence itself. At Ragnarok, they collide again. And this time they annihilate each other. Creation runs backward. Even the dead aren't safe, which honestly tracks for Norse cosmology. Hell's gates burst open. Naglfar, the ship made entirely of dead men's fingernails, because Norse myth doesn't do anything halfway, sets sail with a crew of the Dishonored dead. They march for Asgard. And overhead, the sun and moon are finally devoured by the wolves that have chased them since time began. Skoll and Hati, running across the sky every single day, waiting for this exact moment. The sky goes dark. Everything you thought was permanent ends. The gods don't lose because they're weak. They lose because the math was rigged from the beginning. Thor kills the Midgard serpent, drives his hammer straight through the thing that's been circling the world since creation. But the serpent's venom doesn't care about victory. Thor takes 9 steps. Then he falls. Mutual annihilation. Odin faces Fenrir, the wolf he bound when it was still small enough to fear him. Now it's big enough to swallow the sky. And it does. The Allfather, the one who traded an eye for wisdom, gets devoured whole by the monster he created through his own paranoia. Freyr, god of summer and growing things, stands before Surtur the fire giant completely unarmed. Because once, in a moment of love, he gave his sword away to win a bride. Now that choice comes due. He fights with nothing. He dies with nothing. Heimdall and Loki, the watchman who sees everything and the trickster who ruins everything, kill each other. They are locked together in their final moment, the order and the chaos cancelling out. And all those Einherjar, every warrior Odin's been collecting in Valhalla for centuries, every hero who died brave and was promised a seat at the table, they fight. They fall. They were never meant to win. They were meant to make the end expensive. To make the gods' last stand actually means something. But meaning and surviving aren't the same thing. Here's what they don't tell you. Ragnarok isn't the end. It's a reset. 2 humans survive the whole thing. Their names are Laf and Lifthrasay, literally life and eager for life, and they hide in the branches of Yggdrasil while the world burns beneath them. The world tree shelters them. Even as everything else turns to ash, the tree holds. And when the flames die down, when the oceans settle, they climb down into a world that's empty and waiting. But they're not alone. Some gods survive too. Vidor, Odin's son, kills Fenrir in revenge for his father and walks away from the battlefield. Modi and Magni, Thor's sons, inherit Mjolnir, the hammer that outlasts its wielder. And here's the part that breaks the narrative wide open. Balder comes back. The god of light, the one whose death kicked off this entire spiral, returns from hell after Ragnarok ends. The beautiful god nobody could save is there in the new world, whole again. Even Honi survives. The silent god. Barely mentioned, barely remembered, but is standing there when it's over. The earth rises from the sea, green and dripping and fertile. The survivors don't rebuild the old world. They build something new on its bones. Ragnarok wasn't an ending. It was a purge. And what comes after is supposed to be better. Here's the thing they don't tell you. Ragnarok doesn't mean end of the world. It means fate of the gods. The destiny they always had. The thing that was always going to happen. And that changes everything. Because Norse cosmology isn't linear, it's cyclical. That new green earth rising from the water, it's not a happily ever after. It's the beginning of the next cycle, which will also end in fire. The gods know this. They've always known. And they fight anyway. Not because they think they can win, but because fighting is the point. Because defiance in the face of inevitable destruction is the highest virtue the Norse could imagine. This is their answer to entropy. To the fact that everything decays, everything ends, everything you build will eventually burn. And their answer isn't to give up. It's to say, then what you do in the meantime is everything. The way you face the fire matters. The fact that you showed up matters. It's not nihilistic, it's the opposite. It's radical meaning-making in a universe that doesn't promise you anything. No eternal reward. No salvation. Just the certainty that winter is coming and the question of who you'll be when it does. Ragnarok isn't a warning. It's a manifesto. It's the Norse looking at an indifferent cosmos and choosing to matter anyway. Here's the part that breaks me every time. The gods knew. Odin literally tore out his own eye and hung himself from Yggdrasil for 9 days just to see the future, and what he saw was Ragnarok. He saw his own death. He saw Thor fall. He saw Asgard burn. And he told them. They all knew. And they prepared anyway. They trained warriors in Valhalla. They forged weapons that could kill giants. They made alliances, bound monsters, built defenses. Not because they thought any of it would work, but because preparation itself is an act of defiance. Because if you're going to lose, you're going to lose on your feet, with a weapon in your hand. That choice, to fight a war you know you'll lose, is the most human thing the gods ever did. And maybe that's exactly why these myths survived when so many others didn't. We recognize ourselves in that moment. Ragnarok isn't a cautionary tale. It's not trying to teach you a lesson about hubris or fate. It's a mirror. It asks, what would you fight for even if you knew you'd lose? What matters enough that the outcome doesn't change your answer? Because here's the thing, the new world rises not because the gods won. They didn't. The new world rises because the fight mattered. Because what you're willing to stand for when everything's burning says more about who you are than any victory ever could. The gods standing at the edge of Vigrid, weapons drawn, watching the horizon burn, not because they thought they'd win, but because some things are worth dying for even when you know you'll lose. Follow Blackfire Atelier. I'll see you in the shadows.